Welcome to Balancing Life's Issues. As always, I'm your host, Kai, and I'm here with CEO of BLI, Wendy Woolner. How are you today?
Had a good run this morning. Thanks for asking.
Oh, nice. I'm not going to ask you your minute mile.
There you go.
Moving on. So today's really exciting because, we're talking about going back to school. You have raised 3. Can you kind of speak to some of those anxieties getting back to school?
Yeah. I think the first thing that's so important is, the media gives us different messages, right? So you've got the parents who can't wait to get their kids out, and you've got those party commercials that are like, yay, the kids are gone. I never felt like that. I felt very melancholy about my kids going off to school. I certainly felt very anxious. I felt the financial stress, and I learned very quickly not to get wrapped up in the back to school. You don't have to buy everything new. I think what's really important about the messaging is I love school. And the most important message is this should be filled with passion and excitement. Mm-hmm. Back to school should be that really exciting time. And that's the energy we want to bring into our home.
Absolutely. And, as one with a 7-week-old, in my mind, I'm fast forwarding to 4-year-old Miles getting ready to go to school for the first time. So, ideas like, sleep, eating, you had mentioned it, what's necessary versus what we want in shopping, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think what's really, look, let me for a minute dream here, or if I was going to dream big, and I hope parents haven't let it get totally out of control, right? I hope the kids have had some type of bedtime all summer long, but if they haven't, it's really important to rip off the Band-Aid and send your children to school fully charged. Mm-hmm. We talk about that charged idea all the time, right?
That body battery we were talking about last week.
Yeah. I was a teacher, and I can tell you that I am not a boring teacher. And if you're falling asleep in my class,
I don't believe that.
I'm not a boring teacher. And I've taught kindergarten, I've taught 4th grade, I've taught high school. The reality is our primary job as a family member is to get our children excited from the minute they walk in that program, mm-hmm. the door to the minute they leave. So they should be well fed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, it is exciting, but we do know what we've experienced the last few years. It can be scary. There can be a lot of anxiety. COVID is still out there. There is a resurgence currently. Yep. So, what I wanted to do was I wanted to bring on an expert like we love to do.
Love it.
Her name's Liz Buffington. She's a lecturer at San Diego State University. She's a certified teacher. She has a master's in digital education and leadership, and she's working on her PhD. And I'm just going to bring her on to talk to us and parents, my child soon to be at this age, just about how to navigate all these things we've been talking about, but especially the anxieties of going back to school when we might be scared to go back to school.
Yeah, I love it. Thanks so much. I think we really all need to embrace, learn, and be the best version, and really give our kids every opportunity to make this the best year possible.
Okay, welcome to the program, Liz. I am so excited to talk to you about getting back to school for our parents. How are you doing today?
I am great. Thank you so much. How are you?
I'm doing well. We were just talking about how our 7-week-old.
And before you know it, they'll be going to their first day of school.
That's what everybody keeps telling me, right? It does feel like life is moving. I thought life was moving quick before, but now it's just flying by. So yeah, we really are enjoying the moment.
Yeah, sometimes the days are really long, but I find that the years are incredibly short.
Love that. Yeah. Poetic. I liked that.
Yeah.
Hey, we're here to talk about getting kids back to school, right? There's a lot of anxiety with that, especially what we've experienced the last few years. I know myself, I was a child of summer, and I remember vividly the night before school, I wasn't able to sleep, right? That transition time was always difficult for me. But before you jump in, why don't you just tell us a little bit about, who you are and your background and what you do?
Yeah. So my name is Liz Buffington. I am a parent of 2 and an educator of many. I have taught in the K through 12 arena and currently teach at San Diego State University in the College of Education. Back to school is a big part of our life here in my household.
So I guess as a teacher, and you think about this topic going back to school, the challenges 10 years ago, to a few years ago to today, what's kind of top of mind for you?
So a lot of it's the same. And a lot of it's so different. We're in that vortex, if you will, of what was even pre-COVID 10 years ago to our existence now. But some of the same things continue to happen. That first day, everyone's very excited and ready to go. They can also be nervous. They can have a lot of anxiety. We are creatures of habit. And there's a lot of research about when students come back into school, getting back into the routine is part of creating an environment where they can feel supported so that they can do their best learning. And as parents, we have a big role to play in that. And it's a big responsibility.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of effort on our part.
Helping transition into a new rhythm. So I guess when we look at maybe just sleep, right? Because that was the hard one for me as a kid. Like, I remember not sleeping well during times of transition. How can a parent help prepare their kid for we're waking up at 7 now, or like whatever that new rhythm's going to be?
Yeah, we deal with that a lot in our household. We have morning people and not so morning people. Helping students time themselves, reminding them of the routine of the morning is one way that we can help start the morning off right. We find that if students have had a rough morning, they will come into school, and it's hard for them to not carry that hard morning with them. And so it's helping them to take responsibility of their time. In fact, I find that the students that are able to cope more with routine changes are the ones that have agency and a say in part of the routine. So maybe they help make their lunch the night before, or they say, no, I really want to have school lunch because it takes care of one logistical concern, takes that off the table. These are the areas that you get to make decisions in when it comes.
Yeah, you get to make a
Right.
choice.
It's your life.
Hmm.
But this is where it's age appropriate and family appropriate for you to make this choice.
Absolutely. And all that is so well said. And with a 7-week-old on my end, I'm kind of fast forwarding to what 4-year-old Miles is going to be struggling with, that night before school. And speaking of, one thing that's been on my mind as a parent with a young one who will eventually have a phone, like social media. What are like we all know the dangers of it. We all know the challenges with it. We all know that we have it. So can you talk to us about, as teachers this year, what are some things to look out for, or how can we start to set some better boundaries when it comes to social media this school year?
That is such an important part. And as an educator, the most important person in your child's social media life is the parent, guardian, adults. Modeling for students what appropriate social media looks like. That face to face and human to human experience is lost. And so, what social media could result in that's positive and negative. Social media is instant gratification. It's like a sugar rush. And that is why it is so, to be perfectly honest, addictive. They want to see each other's lives and see and feel that connection. We saw that after COVID in a very big way because there was a lack of connection and social connection for our young people that really has shifted the mental health support that we are preparing for and giving in our schools. Involve them in decisions about social media. So if they're not ready for a social media account, you're not ready for them to have that. Give them a say about what you put in your social media when it involves them. Do they get to have their picture on your Facebook? Um, Give them that agency and remind them that social media, there's a layer of consent to it.
Just with the consent piece, I mean, that goes as an adult as well, right? I know I have to let my wife know, hey, by the way, this is a really cute photo. Like, can I post this? And sometimes she says no. And like, that shouldn't be taken personally. But I love the idea that a child should have agency in that fun family vacation photo they took. And if they want to be on social media.
Yeah. And then that becomes the norm for them. And with that norm becomes a layer of respect.
Yeah, absolutely. Respect, foundation.
Yeah, that's the biggest part of going back to school. Modeling what respect looks like in your family, in your household. Respect in the morning is important. We have a lot of conversations in my house about respect. in the morning?
I am not a morning person. I had to learn um, where to stay quiet, where not to talk. But what's funny is once the child's around, it's like, well, I'm not as grumpy anymore in the morning. But I'm sure that will change. It goes without saying what we as a world experienced over the last few years, and I think maybe especially kids going into remote scenarios and losing that in-person connection, and when they came back, they had lost these social skills, and a seventh grader was acting like a fifth grader in that classroom, right? Because they didn't have that progression. So that didn't go away and it didn't fix itself, right? We are in the middle of what some are calling like the next mental health epidemic of our children's mental health. So, how can we support our kids who are probably nervous going back? Is COVID going to come back? I mean, there is a resurgence right now. I'm anxious about getting sick. I'm anxious about having to go remote again. Like, can you talk to us about how we can be communicating with our kids about, I don't know, I guess the acceptance of it all?
It's a really good question. You're right. COVID's not going away. There's a resurgence. I just got an email from a colleague who said, guess what? I'm not going to be at our orientation tomorrow for all of our new student teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tap in? Yeah, we're there to support each other. What COVID did was teach us to pivot. And so when our students have to pivot, give them positive praise.
Mm,
Maybe it's that they pivoted and provided support for a sibling in the house or helped you with something without being asked to do so. In school, when we are affirming the empathy response to help others, we're appreciating the pivot beyond themselves to someone
right.
else. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a huge thing that you can do. And then hear their disappointment. If they can't go to the soccer game because they got COVID, even if they're not feeling poorly, but they have to isolate,
Right.
affirm that. Let them know that
Validate
you
that
hear them.
feeling.
That is so disappointing. You're absolutely right. We're all very disappointed. Just like we had to do when we were home for so many days and so many months, it was disappointing. We missed out on a lot of amazing human connection. Remind them that they're going to probably be scared of COVID because there may have been some very scary things that happened either in home or close to home, whether that be losing someone or watching someone get really sick. And let them know that the health professionals are doing their job and their health professionals went to school and learned
Mm,
skills so that they could problem solve, and that you're going to help them do their best in school so that they can be those problem solvers as
right.
well. Help them to be part of the solution. So perhaps they might feel more comfortable if they decide to give a fist bump instead of a
Right.
hug. Um, remind them that they can have hand sanitizer in their backpack, or that they can, say to their teachers, I would feel more comfortable if I wear a mask. It's about hearing them and how they see themselves in their whole health. And COVID is an opportunity to hear about how they see themselves in emotional health and physical health. That's why COVID had such a big impact, because it impacted us on both levels.
Yeah. The entire spectrum really took a huge toll. So be attentive. Don't be a fixer. Validate. I love the idea of the positive praise during a pivot. A lot of that is going to be, it's ongoing. And as families, as teachers, how do we support one another to kind of make sure this back to school environment is positive, and but that we do have solutions when things get difficult. I guess back to the more pragmatic
The
stuff.
books, back to the books.
Back to the
Yeah.
books, I needed those Jinko jeans, and that probably dates myself a little bit. I don't know if anybody remember those
Yes.
$150 jeans that I
Yep.
needed.
Back to school shopping.
I know now, my mom could not afford that.
Yeah.
How do we weigh like what's necessary versus what we want?
Yeah, it's so easy to look at someone across the table, across the schoolyard, across the boardroom meeting, and see something that they're wearing or having, and you're instantly going to focus on what they have that you want and don't have.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're going to assume automatically that they get everything. And if that person is someone who is charismatic, maybe popular, you're going to think, gosh, if I can wear those pants, I too will be that charismatic, popular person. What I do is we have the conversation about school clothes shopping and stuff early on. We also put things aside for the future. You might really want that pair of Doc Martens. Maybe there's a birthday coming up or holiday celebration where your family gives gifts. And if you can't afford it, help them be part of the solution about what you could do to afford it. Once they go to school, we want them to remember that showing off their clothes is not going to make them as a person. We don't value people based on what they wear. We value people for who they are.
Uh-huh.
And that's something that they need to learn how to live and appreciate.
Right. So I guess there are lessons to be taught, as we look at back to school shopping. And I love the idea you keep throwing in this idea of choice. So say, they really, really, really need those pairs of shoes and we just can't afford them. Well, how about for the next 2 weeks, we don't do pizza night on Wednesday?
Yep.
And we've saved enough money. So are you willing to part with pizza
night?
Are
you willing to help clean? Are you willing to help with yard work? Are you willing to, to help, walk the dog and pick up after the dog?
You're very busy. It's the beginning of the school year. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. And we've talked about so much. So I guess maybe as a parent instead of as a teacher, what's one thing you would like maybe recommend or to extract from our conversation here that you would ask a parent to really pay attention to?
Help them problem solve when things get difficult, because they will get difficult. And we're going to want to jump in and fix it for them. We're going to want to jump in and do the science project for them because they didn't tell us about it until the day before it was due. And it's very frustrating and we're tired. But instead of doing that, think about how you can help them problem solve and do the work themselves and identify where they need help.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Liz. I really appreciate your time and good luck on the start of your school year.
Thank you, you too. And before you know it, Miles will be going back to school.
Ooh, can't wait. This has been a production of Balancing Life's Issues with your hosts, Kai Sorensen and Wendy Wallner. Produced by me, Kai. Rate, leave a review, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen so you can get brand new episodes as they drop. Got an idea for the show? Email me, kai@balancinglifesissues.com. Anything to add, Miles?